Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Tales with TR, episode 215B. 215B. We're really getting somewhere, so to speak. What's the significance of 215? I don't know. It just looks like a lot to me. Thanks for supporting me along the way. I really appreciate it. And while I'm thanking people, first of all, I'm going to give a shout out. You know who I'm going to give a shout out to? Little man, my buddy Dylan Connolly. I grew up with Blair Connolly, my good friend. I've mentioned him a couple times on this show. I don't see Blair enough anymore. And anyway, I've kept up with Dylan's life and I guess young sports career. And he really improved a lot. I like to mention kids that work hard and improve because at the end of the day, you know, you might make pro, you might not. You might get a scholarship, you might not. But people often lose the forest through the trees. You know, you just those all-star teams and growing up, whether it's A, B, or C, it doesn't have to be all-star, I suppose. It could be house league, could be whatever. I'm just talking about Dylan. Young player that worked hard just to keep interested 4 or 5 years ago and then really improved. Then he started making some moves, right? And then his skating got a lot better. Worked himself onto one of the all-star teams and is having a lot of fun. And I like to acknowledge that once in a while. And, you know, so Blair's my buddy, and I figured, you know, why not mention Dylan? Because he's smiling a lot. He's playing a lot. He's enjoying it. And that's what it's about. When you're 15, 16, 17, you'll know if you want to go away, if you can go away. I'm saying Newfoundland, go away. You know, in other words, you know, make the next step. But not everybody has to. And who knows, maybe Dylan will, maybe he won't. But I'm telling you this, that he's improved a lot. He's having fun doing it. And I figured I'd mention Dylan to kick off the show. So way to go, Dylan. Keep it up. And baseball player in the summer. But I haven't really seen your progress there. I'll try to get to a game soon. Blair Connolly, there he is. Zonk Bonnelly. Shout out for you. Next, I want to mention Manscaped. So they, Manscaped sponsored the show on and off over the last few years. And they were nice enough to send me a package. They didn't ask anything in return. Well, I mean, again, I thank the people at the Hockey Podcast Network. They set up some of the sponsorships. But Manscaped, I'm mentioning this because they didn't ask me to say this. Whatever ad that you've heard on the Hockey Podcast Network, I'm sure they've had some ads. And, you know, I'm guessing they pay for those through the people at the Pod Network. I have nothing to do with that. But I am going to bring up, you know, it's one thing to get sponsors. Another thing, things that are real unique. I love the product. That's why I often talk about that Pitbull pain relief, the pain sticks at the end. You know, they were just nice enough to send me some, which happens all the time. People send me things. I'm not just going to plug stuff I don't like. This Manscaped gear, unbelievable. So, and you know, I guess if you're a guy, all you're thinking when they think Manscaped, you're just thinking of the clipper, right? And you're thinking about your groin area, let's say. Now, it's great for that. I don't know what it is, but when I use a regular clipper down there, it tends to like nick you sometimes. Like this, whatever it is, like it's like a little tiny hairline of a guard, but whatever it is, you can use it freely without having to worry about nicking, and that's awesome. But it's not just that, man. They got the, there's all kinds. They got trimmers. Literally, it's called ball deodorant. But guys, you know, that might sound funny at first or unique or comedic, but it's not. Really, honestly, if you're looking at getting lucky or even just being a clean individual, whatever the fuck it is, why not have some deodorant down there? And as far as the trimmers, there's all kinds. There's nose, ear trimmers, and this particular thing. So people give me shit sometimes for shaving my chest. Sometimes I shave my arms and my legs in ball hockey in the summer. It's fucking stifling. I don't know if you guys are listening to this from North America. All I can speak on, because I've been traveling all over North America for the last few months, and it's a bit of a heat wave. Well, you could almost call the whole summer a heat wave. It's real fucking hot. And it gets no better when you get into these hockey rinks with no air conditioning. So I just always thought, why have a patch of fur on my chest to make me hotter? And it clearly cools you down. If you're on YouTube, you wouldn't even notice it. I got tats. You don't even notice it. But I got my arms done, not my legs, but I got my arms done. And when I go to the National and World Ball Hockey Championships later this summer, I will shave my legs and all of it. Just a little advantage, and it cools me down. I don't know. There might be people out there I'm talking to that can identify, but once I get in a good wind shape, like once my cardio is pretty good, and it's good now, like the first thing that slows me down, ice hockey, and same thing with ice hockey. I don't wear anything underneath in ice hockey. Nothing. Right? Just a little bikini brief so I have something down there that my jock doesn't irritate. But I don't wear anything, and I shave. And so in the midwinter, I'm the same way when I get out there. I'm like, why have fur all over my chest? Because it just makes me hot. And I honestly, I overheat. When I come off for a change, it's mostly because I'm getting overheated. Secondly would be legs, that burn and right over your, in your lower quads, that burn that you get. Lactic acid probably build up or whatever, like I get that before my lungs. If I get out there and my lungs are bad, I know I'm way off being in shape and I need to get back. And usually it takes 2 or 3 weeks of doing nothing for that to happen, which happens, man. I broke my ribs a couple of years ago. I came back and I felt like I hadn't skated in 6 decades. But that might be an exaggeration. But anyway, yeah, I don't give a shit. Who knows? I shave at some points all the hairs on my body other than my head. It gets so goddamn hot playing ball hockey in the summer. And you think it's any better outside? It's not. Check some of those Chicklets Cup videos. Man, we are dying. And at the Chicklets Cup, unlike the other ball hockey tournaments I play, we're usually boozing. That's if you're a young or any ball hockey player listening to this, the preparation that we normally take for ball hockey tournaments would include lots of water and little drink and a good diet. But of course, the Chicklets Cup is the Wild West, and it's a couple of days. We're there for a bit of fun, and it's as much about the camaraderie as anything. But anyway, as far as Manscaped, I wanted to mention that. I promise you this, I'm getting nothing extra for saying this. I appreciate them sending me a free clipper. That was great, and I think that's through the Hockey Podcast Network. I honestly don't even know what Manscaped know about me or this podcast or anything else. But I'm telling you now, I know a good product when I use one, and everything I've used by Manscaped is absolute top-notch, from the ball deodorant to the clippers to the trimmers. It's fucking awesome. A1. Thank you, Manscaped, and I highly recommend. Okay. Now I'll welcome my guest, who's got to follow up a ball promo. Literally a testicle promo. Well, not really a testicle promo now, is it? But still, it could be considered distasteful for me to lead right into that. I got to come up with something. I can't have David coming on. Hint, hint. I can't have David coming on right after plugging a ball clippers. Let's see. The Jays are turning it around. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. I'm not very confident in the team, but some of the players that they need to trade, George Springer's picking it up. You know what? I'm just trying to come up with something. The Jays are dismal. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're going to do. It seems to me that there's no way out of the mediocrity they're in. Okay, I need something else, something positive, something positive. Okay, straight up, I suppose. I'll tell you about the guest coming on. That's a positive story. In 2001 is when I hurt my ankle. It was right around September 11th, that tragic day. I was in Dallas, and I busted my ankle anyway at camp. And that's what ended up leading to my career being over, at least professionally, right? I just didn't have a step to lose when it came to the NHL, and I knew the writing was on the wall. So I picked my favorite places in the world to play: Boise, Idaho, Cincinnati, and Orlando. My last team was Orlando. I wasn't going to play. I'd signed my retirement papers. I was home. My buddy Zach Boyer called me at Christmas and said, look, I'm hurt. I got a concussion. I'm going to coach the rest of the year. There's a veteran spot open. The way it works in the coast, you get 3 veteran spots, I think it's called, and 1 exemption. And, it's all based on games played. And I'd had a lot played. I mean, I was like 5-year pro or something with NHL games. So, but I did, and I remember I'd been off for a while, and I went up to right now as I speak to you guys, especially if you're looking on YouTube, this body, this is 195. This is what 195 looks like, which I've been for the most part. Actually, when I do hitch Shoresy, each season I've been a little bit more. I think this year I might do it like I've been like 210, 215 for a few different reasons. First year I broke my ribs. The second year we had to be pumped up for the calendar. And I kind of kept it for the third year. But anyway, so season 4, I will look more like my actual self than ever. But anyway, I was at least 225, man. I was big. And they were taking a chance. I think Zach had to convince my next guest, who owned our team, for me to go down there. Now, I went down at Christmas, but I knew my ankle was bad. And the team was real good. Everybody wanted to play in Orlando. So I didn't play till 9 games left. I didn't play till February. I just went down, practiced, hung out with the team, went on the road trips, and waited till I got the minimal games in for the playoffs, because the point was to win, right? At this point, I wasn't going to get scouted to go anywhere. I couldn't play anymore. I knew I shot my ankle with cortisone, and I knew that as soon as the year was over and it wore off, I'd be hurting for a while, and I wouldn't go back playing pro hockey, and that's exactly what happened. Didn't hurt when I ran, got into ball hockey and all that, but anyway, it's another story. But Dave hauled me down there. And we ended up being good friends. He owned our team, and we all loved him. We won. He got us incredible rings. We just had an unbelievable time that I'll talk about. But anyway, it definitely was the first step into turning my pessimism at hockey around. I'll guarantee you that. I wasn't going to play anymore. I was so upset that I hurt my ankle and couldn't go back to Montreal or the NHL or wherever. I knew I'd made some mistakes. But anyway, David, awesome guy, turned my life around, and I'm lucky to have him on my show. That's a better introduction or preface. We will have David in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. Right back.
Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. With DraftKings, you can bet on any game you want. Whether you want to bet the puck line or the over-under, DraftKings has something for everybody. And if you want, you can throw down on your favorite player as an anytime goal scorer. Or if you're looking for a long-term bet, maybe you want to predict the Stanley Cup champion. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code THPN. New customers get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's promo code THPN, as in the Hockey Podcast Network, only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER, or in West Virginia, visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas. 21 plus, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.co/ice for eligibility, wagering, and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gambling resources. Copyright NHL 2024, all rights reserved.
Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is a graduate of Boston University and is a lifelong hockey fan and prominent real estate investor. He has owned or partly owned a number of pro hockey teams, including the Jacksonville Barracudas, Asheville Aces, Macon Tracks, and of course, my old team, the Orlando Seals, where we won a championship together in 2003. He then went on to be one of the founders of the WHA2 in the mid-2000s. Today, he wears many hats, including rescuing horses in need as the director and owner of the Bravehearts Equine Center. He is a great guy, an incredible investor, a heroic husband, an admirable owner, an amazing American, a chiseled champion. The rumors are true. He went to Boston U. He won a ring with me back in 2003. The fans were on wheels to support our Orlando Seals. It was a lot of fun to win in the sun. As crazy as it seems, he owned a lot more teams. His legend grew, and he bought horses too. Isn't he lucky? He has a place in Kentucky. To tell you the truth, his lovely wife's name is Ruth Folks. The coat of a woolly mammoth is definitely foreign fur. Please welcome to the show my buddy David Waronker. Folks, Dave, how you doing?
That is great. Thanks, JR. It's great to see you.
Hey, it's great to see you. So here we go. So for folks that I've mentioned Orlando on the air a few times. I gave a little bit of an intro before this, you coming on a very brief one. But we caught up a few months ago. You're back in Orlando. You live all across the United States. Before we get into the hockey stuff, I just want to know exactly what is it that you do with the horses now? I know you rescue them. And how long? Were you doing that while we knew you in Orlando and I just didn't realize it?
We had horses in Orlando. At that stage, we weren't rescuing horses. My daughters and wife were into riding. So there's an equestrian center, I should say. There was an equestrian center owned by the Hyatt Hotel, Hyatt Regency. So we kept our horses there. We eventually, it's like potato chips, can't have just one. We get, two horses, 4, 6. We then moved to Scottsdale, where we raise our children on a horse ranch. And that's when we started rescuing. We had no clue as to how desperate the situation are with animals in general, but specifically in horses. The draft horses. The race horses seem to have homes. I mean, they're neglected as well when they don't perform. But the draft horses, those big, the Percherons, the Belgians, the Clydesdales, those are the horses that are in most peril. They're worked to death. They're working horses, pulling plows, pulling carriages. You'd see them in New York City. And when the owners are done with them, which means they're so beaten and they can't work any longer, wow, they have the gall to throw them into what's kill auctions. They sell them for meat. In an auction, these poor, beautiful horses are sent to auctions for slaughter. So what we try to do, and as many as we can or financially can afford, is to rescue those horses out of the kill pens. There's a lot of sad stories. There's a lot of great stories. But Ruth and I are dedicating, I'd say, 95% of our time to animal rescue and 95% of our money, which our kids will remind you. But yeah, it's an expensive endeavor, but it's a labor of love. And we have a big 145-acre farm up in Lexington, which we call it. It's owned by Bluegrass Drafts, which is owned by me and my wife. But the entity that rescues is, like you said earlier, Bravehearts Equine Center. A great group of passionate people, 6 full-time employees, all working to save animals. And right now we have about 150 draft horses rescued on the farm.
That's phenomenal. And you know what? In this day and age, I'm really surprised. Like, it's even called would you say kill zones, kill pens?
Kill pens.
People know that these beautiful animals. Yeah. Sorry about that. People know these beautiful animals are going to be killed, and it's just not on the public radar very much. And certain other things are. I mean, how do you equate an animal's life? It's hard. But I didn't realize that, David. So when you got full-time into the horse rescuing, when would that have been?
Oh, I'd say we've been doing it for about over 10 years. We bought our farm about 3.5 years ago, the Kentucky farm.
And you are from New Jersey and went to school in Boston, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So when you were younger, you were a hockey player?
All the time. Morning, noon, and night. Couldn't get me off the ice.
Wow. And so that was in Jersey?
Correct. Yes.
And then who would have been, like, did you follow the NHL closely? Like, was there a favorite player?
Oh, I was a Flyers fan, still a Flyers fan to today. And I was at the very first game in 1967 with my father. So I saw the first game ever in Flyers history. So yeah, I love the Flyers. Favorite player, Eric Lindros.
Well, you know what? If you're going to enjoy the Flyers, what a player. And people forget he went and he played past his expiry date because he loved hockey so much. And a lot of people, like a little bit younger than me, only remember him for the Leafs when he was a pale shadow of himself. But when he was with the Flyers, can you remember? It's the best year I remember someone not winning the Cup, because he was MVP. It was the lockout short in 94-95 season. And he took the Flyers all the way to the final. I think they lost in Game 7 even. But he did everything he could. Like this year, McDavid. Like it was a performance like that. Except in Eric's performance, he was pasting people into the wall. He was he was wallpapering guys as he was scoring.
Impressive guy, impressive player, no doubt.
So then, what was your route to Boston U?
Well, I was actually a crew rower. And so I wanted to go row crew at Boston. And I ended up not doing it. It was just too competitive and school was too difficult. So I was a very hardworking student for 4 years, studying biology and, of all things, hospitality administration as a minor.
Really? So, and okay, so first, why Boston, the city? Because being from Jersey, there's all kinds of options close. I mean, there could be the most options in that area in the world if you want to go to a good university. I mean,
50
they're
schools
everywhere.
within a 10-mile radius, 50 colleges.
And good schools. We're not talking
Great
like
schools.
shit programs, like a lot of the best in the world that you can consider. I mean, Boston U being one of them. So what, did you just like Boston, or were you like, I want to go on an adventure that's completely foreign?
Actually, Terry, I got a full scholarship to row crew at the University of Tampa in Florida. And I remember being very excited about getting that scholarship and calling up my father at his work and telling him, "Hey, Dad, I got a 4-year, $32,000 scholarship to row crew at University of Tampa." And I remember his comment wasn't, "Hey, that's great, son." But now he said, "I saved all my life to send you to college to be a doctor, and yet you want to be a rower." So
really
interesting, right?
Wow.
I guess he kind of made sense. So, but I love Boston, to answer your question. Been there a few times, and great city. And I applied to multiple schools in the area, from Northeastern to Boston College, but settled on BU. Love BU.
I hear unbelievable things. And you still go back. Sure, when I saw you, weren't you in Boston for a hockey?
Bean pot, right?
The bean pot. You went back to watch
last time I was there.
That's on my list. The next time I see you is either going to be in Lexington, Kentucky, because I love Kentucky. They had a team in the league when I played in the American League, the Kentucky Thoroughblades.
Can you imagine?
And I never heard of. I mean, I heard of Kentucky, but I didn't know anything about Lexington.
Great place.
Yeah, I ended up going back a couple times in the summer. We went like it's not that far from Louisville, right? Like it's about an hour, maybe, or a little bit more. I remember going to Churchill Downs and watching the Kentucky
60
Derby.
miles east. Yeah.
There you go. Speaking of horses, I mean, I didn't know anything about it, and we were down at Churchill Downs, like
Derby.
Just happened
that weekend.
Yeah, we just happened to be there that weekend. We only went there once all year, and it happened to be that weekend.
Good time.
And it was great because a bunch of us had our like Montreal Canadiens hockey cards because we were in the minors, but we had cards out in the show, and we just used those to get in. Well,
Did it work? Awesome.
It works once in a while. So your wife, Ruth, you guys are on a lifelong adventure together. You work together. I can't, honestly, I wouldn't know how to put into words, but there's not many people I know that have spent a life together and happy like you and Ruth. Where did you guys meet?
We met, we actually grew up in the towns next to each other in New Jersey. She grew up in Cinnaminson. I grew up in Morristown. Never knew each other, and ended up finding each other probably 8 years later through work. She worked for a company that was financing some of my development projects in New Jersey. And we just became friends. And, 33 years ago, we got married. So,
wow. I bet it doesn't seem like 32 years, does it?
No, it doesn't. No, I wake up in the morning, Terry, and I'm like, what happened? I was that young guy. I was you, right? Young, happy, vibrant, playing hockey all the time. And now I have no regrets, but you get up a little slower in the morning, your aches and pains are a little rougher, and you say, oh my God, I'm 63. I'm 63.
Yeah, I know it must be. Well, I mean, I say the same being 47, but I get it at stages of life. But it's wild. But you're a young 63-year-old and you were a young hip owner. I guess it would have been 21 years ago when we won. Again, that doesn't seem like that. I mean, like a kid born when we won it is now drinking age. That certainly doesn't seem like that. But anyway, right. I remember you guys. You were not the typical owner that would come in. The old graying, white-haired owner that'd be Scrooge McDuck. You were good. You had us over to your place. You were one of us. Had I not known, I would have thought you were a player. But how? So you're in Boston University. You graduated, I'm to believe, in finance, or am I wrong?
Business administration.
Business administration. What were the steps between that and I guess that would have been the early 90s, and I met you in 2003 when you're in Orlando and you own the Seals, and I didn't know anything about finance or equestrian or any of that stuff. I just knew you were my owner. So how did you get to that point of owning the Orlando Seals and other teams, but my team?
Okay. So it's a little bit of an interesting story. I think it is anyway. And could be the first chapter of a future book, because it's a very good question.
And don't spare any details of all the time. I don't need to say a word. I know you told me I was mesmerized in Orlando, and I forget half of it because I was on the beers, but go ahead.
Yeah, a little bit. So when the old Solar Bears folded, or the whole league folded back in 99, I guess, 1999, the whole was a United Hockey League, whatever that hockey league, the Orlando's original Solar Bears were playing under, IHL. IHL. In 2001 or 2002, there was a restart of the hockey league, Atlantic Coast Hockey League. And just to help out, I'm kind of new to the area. I've only lived in the area about 3 or 4 years. But to help the team, we bought 20 season tickets for charity and 6 season tickets for our family. Thinking, well, we might go to a handful of games. It's a lot to get up there. Anyway, around the first year of that 6-team league, the first year, I'm up in New Jersey in my office doing business the week before Thanksgiving. And I happened to get a call from a girl from the hockey team named Erica Hodges. She was the director of communications, if you remember her. Yeah. And I'm sitting in my office on a Monday night, ready to go home for Thanksgiving week. And she makes the comment to me. She goes, Mr. Waronker, I just wanted to get to know that you're our largest season ticket holder with 26 seats. Okay. That's nice. Thank you. Is there a word for this? She goes, another question. Did you ever think of owning a hockey team? And I said, no. Thought it never came into my mind. And then I go, but why are you asking? And she says, well, because quite frankly, if we don't get some new ownership into this by the end of the week, we're out of business.
By the end of the week?
The end of the week.
What? Right. My God. So, what a fucking statement. What a question. Oh,
well, what a league. So I'm curious because I am a business person. Well, what happened? What are you looking for? So the team was owned by Jeff Brubaker, really great guy. I love Jeff. I think he's a good man, an honest guy, probably one of the most honest people I met in the hockey circle. Anyway, Jeff gets on the line and he tells me I'm really looking for, 10 people to put up $75,000 to own 90% of the hockey team. They're looking to raise $750,000. And I'm like, well, then I'm not interested because I don't want to get involved with business, with people I just don't know, especially 9 others and not have control. If you want a $75,000 donation, that's one thing, but no. Anyway, longer story short, I said, but maybe I could buy the entire team. But Jeff, if I buy the entire team, that means you don't have any ownership. So very quickly doing the math in my head on a Monday night, I figured, well, what can I lose by doing this? Well, other than $750,000. And I'm saying, so what if the team doesn't sell another ticket, a T-shirt, a hot dog? It underestimated its road expenses. What is this team going to cost me to get through the year and be done with it and just say that was a bad year? It came out to be $1.2 million in my head, the math, right? Yeah. So I called my wife, Ruth, and I said, I want to buy a hockey team. And she's like, no, don't do it. Don't do it. She goes, it's going to be a mistake. It's going to be a life-changing event. And I'm like, Ruth, I'm 42 years old. I'm smart. I think I know what I'm doing. And I certainly was overconfident, TR. Yeah. Yeah. So long story, we agree to buy the hockey team. I called my attorney on Monday night, Jim McNeil from Holland and Knight in Orlando. And I say, hey, Jim, I want to buy a hockey team. And I'm interested in buying a hockey team, the Orlando Seals organization. And here's the thing. We got to close by Wednesday because if I don't close this week, we're out of business. And he was pissed at me. He's like, you know what you're doing? We got to pull off, 50 hours of legal work in 2 days. Well, I go, Jim, just thanks for the lecture, but can you get it done? And he did. So Wednesday night at the SunTrust Tower, the day before Thanksgiving, there's a stack of paper. TR, it's 2 feet tall. And I don't even know really, quite frankly, what I'm signing, but the signing papers. My wife is there signing with me, regrettably, but trusting her husband, I guess. I haven't been long yet. So at least business-wise. So the next night, Thursday night, Thanksgiving, there's actually a home game. I'm the owner of the hockey team. I'm being introduced to to the public as the owner. The local news stations, which you kind of remember, are all there. Someone from the Philadelphia Inquirer in New Jersey is there. USA Today is there. It's like, this is a bigger event than I thought. This is a pretty nice press conference. Erica Hodges, the PR director, gets me out. Yeah. You did great. But then she goes, but listen, Dave, the referees for tonight want to meet with you. I'm like, what do they want to meet with me for? Sure enough, I meet with them. Here you go. It starts, Terry. The referees go, Mr. Waronker, I know it's a big night, and it's Thanksgiving, got a big crowd, and we're going to referee the game, but we haven't been paid this season for our for refereeing the events in Orlando. I'm like, well, what's a ref get paid? I don't know. It was like $100 for the ref, $75 for the linesman. So here I go. I'm reaching in my pocket and pulling out cash to pay the referees. So they were going to do it, but I wrapped up. Yeah. Next thing, it's 5 o'clock. I'm getting a call from a bus driver from the team. They were making tracks, the visiting team that night, that has the team over at the Marriott, downtown Marriott. And he's calling me to say the Macon Tracks bounced their check to the bus company. And he's been instructed to either bring the team back to Macon, or if I'll guarantee the payment, go bring the team to the game. Oh, so here it goes, Terry. So what am I
now
doing?
You're not seeing any of and this is immediate. This happens the first night.
Oh, in days. Oh, and, the first day. So now I'm guaranteeing the bus driver. Gets better.
Not even your bus driver. You're guaranteeing the bus driver, the other fucking team, and the referees, which are neutral.
You got it. And the league is supposed to pay these expenses.
And not only that, before you go further, so the league's supposed to pay the expenses. Now, even though you're doing a good, even just the format of this, you're literally paying the refs. At this point, if Orlando gets a late call, you're like, well, he did literally pay the refs before. I know you weren't in it for that, but it's just a terrible optic for anybody. It puts the refs in the worst position possible. Anyway, keep going.
I'm not bringing, and I'm not bringing any of the team or staff or owner, previous owners into this. I'm just, I'm a big boy. I'll swallow this myself. So they had a Black Friday hockey game. By the way, the game was great. 4,200 fans. The team won. It was a nice game and everything. So at least I felt a little pumped about that event. Yeah. Black Friday, we're taking a bus drive down to St. Pete. And I'm going to be the nice guy and get on the bus and meet Zach Boyer and Chris LaPuma and all the nice guys that are on that hockey. Great team, great group of guys. I love them all, and I talk to them all today. Yeah. We're on the bus. I get down to St. Pete for the game, the afternoon game, and I'm looking around. It's like game time. There's no crowd. The owner of the team comes up to me and he says, Mr. Waronker, it's been really rough. I'm going to have to either fold this team or we can move it to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and finish the season out. This was called like the St. Pete Parrots, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, Jesus God. And he goes, but I can't afford to move the team. So I need $40,000 to move the team.
Oh my God.
Can you help me out? Now here I go thinking again in my David Waronker math on Monday night. Well, there's a team in St. Pete. It's only a day game. There's 8 games against that team. Perhaps, we can get our fans to go to their games, their fans to go to our games. It won't be an expensive night, no per diem, no overnight stay. So now I'm paying a team to go from St. Pete to the farthest distance possible, 830 miles away from Orlando, where I will have overnight games. We'll have to cover their team. So anyway, here you go. So what am I thinking at that moment? My great business mind, my great Boston University background. What did we not think about in this math of buying a hockey team? What was in that computation that was going to cost me $1.2 million to get through the season? The question was, what happens if we have nobody to play against? What happens if Macon doesn't have a team, or St. Pete, or I bought this hockey team and I have no other teams to play against? I didn't think of that math. Well, then I would be, first of all, destroying my name in the area in a matter of weeks, right? Yeah. As the owner that put the team down. I'd have to refund season ticket holders, corporate sponsors. I mean, it would be a big mess. So you go deeper and deeper. I'm lending money to the Macon Tracks to get them through the season, to the Jacksonville Barracudas to get them through the season. Obviously, the Winston-Salem team, which I basically am owning at this stage, I'm covering all their expenses. out of 6 teams, I'm paying all the expenses for 4 of them.
Wow.
Long story short, the end of the year, talk about, here's the $2 million ring. So that's in addition to Orlando, that's what it cost to get us through the season. So what was my business reason to get involved with this? The business reason was to further my name in the area as, a developer. Why would I sell land to this person, this developer, when there's national builders and developers all over the place in the Central Florida? Well, he owns one of the pro sports teams in town. He must be substantial. Yeah. So that was the selfish side of why I bought the team. It wasn't any other reason. It wasn't for pride, glory, or I had an ego. It was really to spread, just to expand my business.
Yeah, so, and you're entertained by hockey. I can see the motivation. It makes sense. And God, I wouldn't have thought of that either. Now all of a sudden, so that was. I came in at Christmas and then I waited because I had a bad ankle and I played. So I didn't realize that's how Winston-Salem got there then.
What do they ever call them? I don't even know what they call them, the Pirates up there. Yeah, we had to even get them new jerseys, because you can't really wear the Pirates jerseys. And it was crazy. This Atlantic Coast Hockey League was run by a guy I actually like, Bill Coffey, an older man. I don't even know if he's alive anymore. And there's a guy named Jim Riggs, who was their commissioner, I believe they called him, and another guy, Ron Hansis. And these 3 ran a league out of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, of all places to run a hockey league, right?
Yeah.
So at the end of the year, I'm realizing, guys, you don't even have a hockey league. I basically have a hockey league, right? Yeah. 4 of the 6 teams. I was so frustrated with that league. That's why we formed the WHA2 and just did our own league just to get it stable. Okay. Today, it thankfully functions as the Southern Professional Hockey League.
So that's that. Thank you for making that link, because a lot of people listening, there's like an abyss of leagues at that time that were being, that were failing, that were being absorbed, that were starting out, and it's hard to keep track. So for those listening, like a lot of the teams we're talking about are now in the Southern Professional League or the East Coast League. The team we're in, Orlando still has a team. Now it's the and they're in the ECHL. But honestly, it was the same. We played in the TD Waterhouse. That was where the Magic played, right? I mean, it was a nice. Yep. I remember getting fans and support. See, my experience before really talking to you about any of this was a great one. I went down there and I knew my career was ending after that. I mean, I knew I couldn't skate the same anymore. And that was my last experience. I went down and there was great people. I stayed out by Kissimmee. I met Skinny Anderson, Zach Boyer I'd played with, Chris LaPuma, a guy I really looked up to as a tough pro. And, we had lots of fans when I was there. We didn't lose many games, if any, when I actually played. My experience was an absolute, exciting time would be an understatement. It was therapeutic. It was fun, so much fun. And I remember we won the championship. And we had our parade at Disney at the end when they have their parades. And I'm sure you remember that. And then we went over to your place. It's honestly one of my best memories. I didn't know any of this. So after that, now I knew I was coming home, starting my life after hockey because of my ankle. When you started the WHA2, I really wanted to go and I couldn't play. But I remember following along. And was that your were you thinking, now I own 4 of these teams essentially, so now it's time maybe to market this differently, start the WHA2, and what was your process? Who did you phone and how because that started almost immediately. That's another quick turnover.
Yeah, well, it was pretty quick. Well, believe me, at the end of the season, I had no intention of, founding a league and being the president and manager, financier, of a league. I mean, I'm a real estate developer. I really don't even have time for this. This was supposed to be an offshoot, an investment that would be, running its own for the most part. When make money or lose money is irrelevant, but it should have been self-supporting and not taking up so much of my time. And come the end of the year, yeah, it was a great experience in Orlando. I mean, it was a glass half full, half empty. It was totally half full. I mean, it was a beautiful year. I loved the people. I loved most of the staff. I won't say all, but everybody worked really hard. The players were awesome. And Terry, we never lost a game with you in the lineup. Did you know that?
No, I did. You knew. Looking back, I said I don't remember losing much, but yeah,
never.
Wow.
So you were perfect addition and a good recommendation by Zach Boyer to bring along. But anyway, we get to the end of the season, and I'm pretty frustrated that I'm financing 4 teams and basically owning 4 teams at that stage. Well, I should say I am owning 4 teams because none of the loans could get paid back. So now I'm full owner of the Macon Tracks. A guy named, I can't think of the old owner's name of that team. I'm now full owner of this franchise up in Winston-Salem. I'm full owner of Jacksonville. I'm like, what am I doing? But it wasn't even enough to leave the league. What was enough was every week during the ACHL league, during the season, we were supposed to, as team owners, express mail every Thursday night to the league office, the players' payroll, league dues, workers' comp contributions, other miscellaneous expenses. The league, if you remember, paid the players. We technically didn't pay you.
I do remember that distinctly, yeah.
So, every week, we're making our payments. The end of the season comes around, and one of our players, you remember the guy named David Deves?
Yeah.
Remember David? Great player. Yeah, good guy, great player. He had a pretty bad injury, a knee injury. And
I remember hearing that.
We found out my wife and I are being sued at our house in celebration for non-payment of medical bills in excess of $50,000. We're like, wait a minute. There's workers' comp. Why are we getting this in the mail? Well, it turns out the league never paid the workers' comp. They never I should rephrase that. Since December, they stopped it that year paying. They couldn't afford it. Stopped paying workers' comp. So they weren't even not paying the referees. They weren't paying league dues. They weren't marketing, promoting. And that was it. That was it. So at that point, I picked up the phone and did something that's not my character. I ripped the league apart. I called the president, Bill Coffey, and said, you no longer own your league. I own your league. And if you don't concede the league to me, I'm pulling my teams out and forming my own league. So you're getting the story of what actually happened. And there was nothing they could do. Because I would have at that stage just said, good night, good riddance, take my loss, concentrate on real estate development and close the 4 teams. But then I decided to, with the persuasion of a few people I wish I never met, form the WHA2, which is supposed to be the feeder league for the revamped WHA. It was supposed to be restarted during the lockout of the NHL.
I remember that. Well, look, if I don't know, I'll get to that next, but when you got out of all this, but there is a silver lining, not really to your pocket, but a lot of these teams now still have, like you said, they have a team in one of the leagues, and the Southern Professional League is pretty much, so there is a lot of fans out there and players that would directly thank you for what you did. But now, and I'm sure that wasn't your goal getting into it to own these leagues. So then at what point, David, did you get out of all this, like the hockey part?
We had committed to move to Arizona. And, and slowly I was transitioning teams into local ownership, with Macon, thank goodness. With Jacksonville, there was a local owner that bought the team. Miami just finished one season and it was done. We finished the season. This wasn't a good market down there. But I ended up, when I moved to Arizona, selling to a guy out of, I think, Daytona Beach that bought the Seals. So I was transitioning my way out, but that was three and a half years later, when I was finally out altogether. So
now,
but you're absolutely right what you said. I was glad that, we helped in some fashion to, continue teams in certain areas, create new markets, which was nice. And for that, I'm thankful. I get to meet some great people like you, Terry, longtime friends for life. All those guys, all over the country. I think it's some of the people that worked in our league, Gary Unger, Ron Duguay, Jim Pack, 2-time Stanley Cup champion with Pittsburgh. There was Zach, Chris that we talked about. These are just some great people, great friends, Skinny. I mean, is there a better guy in the world than Skinny?
No, the most interesting player I've ever played with in my life, for sure.
Great guy.
Ball hockey, ice hockey, yeah.
And that's the way I look at it. And that's the way Ruth looks at it. We had a great experience, met some great people. The leagues, the hockey goes on. We're not the first owner to own hockey teams and not own them later. We're not going to be the last. So overall, it was a great experience for me and expensive, but, that's life. Wins and losses.
It's interesting. Yeah, that's the way to look at it now. And it's true. We're here. We wouldn't be here talking otherwise. And, I've always been grateful for that moment because I was in bad place. I mean, I'm a first round pick. I hurt my ankle. I was told I was never going to play in the NHL again or even pro. And so I was really happy that you guys gave me the chance. And then to be able to deliver, on that, I really felt good about it. I left hockey thinking, 5 months before that, I was thinking, what the hell have I done with my career? And when we did that, I remember being happy and hugging Zach. And, Zach really convinced me when he first called me. I was really depressed. And you guys, man, it was funny. It was just ended up being one of the funnest years of my life. And I just didn't see it
for us too.
Yeah. And like I said, we wouldn't be talking otherwise. So that's awesome. Now, listen, I just got to touch on this. So I'm sure you've heard this 3-on-3 league that was going to start in Ontario, and there's a guy, Max Chambers. And I don't know if he was involved back then, but I know that you were interested and you were contacted by some other media outlets about this. So I'm not sure where you come in here. So was he one of the people that you dealt with down there? And were you going to get in on this 3-on-3 league? I don't think so, right?
No, not a chance. I was introduced to Max Chambers years ago as by the guys that were trying to form the WHA. Al Howell, Nick Vaccaro, Peter Young, those names.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, no. So it was it was started from a good place,
right? Okay, yeah. Good intentions. So this Max Chambers is interested in buying Orlando and Jacksonville. Have him call me. Well, so he calls me, and we're interested. We're interested in discussing it because it's not my business. I'm happy to get hockey created and get out of it. Right? Just create markets. Happy to rescue horses and see them go to new homes. Right? So anyway, he calls. And apparently he sends 2 checks to the WHA, each for $10,000 as a show of good faith, and both checks bounce. So I'm like, I don't want to talk to this guy. No more, no excuse. He's not buying millions of dollars of hockey teams, and bouncing checks, no discussion. Terry, this guy holds a press conference in Orlando announcing that he is the owner or buying the Orlando Seals hockey team. He's introducing a guy named Butch Goring as the head coach. I remember Butch Goring just from being a young kid and playing. I'm sitting away out of town. I'm going, what am I hearing? What is this? So this guy is crazy. I mean, crazy.
You're seeing this going, okay, so he had a plan. He knew exactly what he was doing.
What's that?
He knew exactly what he was doing, and that was 20 years ago. So this has been going on, I guess, because he's the main name behind this 3-on-3 league. At first everybody was excited about this. Now I think there's some backlash, and I'm hearing
never happening. I mean, you never say never, but 99.99% sure it's never happening. No one can step in your door in any business and act as though they're going to buy it without proving their background. I don't care if it's a house that you're selling, a single family home, a business, a hockey team, a car. You've got to be able to produce your worth, correct? You got to show that you're financially able. Max Chambers can't show anything that he's done in life. He talks that he's as though he's a billionaire, but can't show you 10 cents. Now, why is that? If you're trying to buy the Orlando Seals, you're trying to form the 3-on-3 hockey league, yet you can't form a financial statement. You can't provide it and have any background, a website. I mean, you're supposed to be promoting teams, not, pretending you're shielding them due to, do not disclose documents. This guy is nuts. Crazy. So when I got that phone call from the Toronto Star, I think it was some Canadian outlet, and one in North Dakota as well, I didn't first remember the name. And then I clearly remembered the name as you don't want to use the word fraud, but as close as it's been that I could see, I don't see one thing that is legitimate or honorable or honest about that man. I don't see how he had the financial ability to pull this off. Hey, I could be wrong, right? And if I am, I'll be the first to admit it. But a league that's starting that supposedly has raised $10 billion, that's more than the worth of the NHL, by the way. Yeah. Not the NHL. That's 10 NHL hockey teams. And he's going to produce $10 billion and have teams playing in 2 months in undisclosed cities, undisclosed coaches, and undisclosed players. Oh, that happens. You can't even build a house in that amount of time, right?
just a top-notch shyster, but you'd spend your whole life hearing footsteps. Man, imagine that must be a shitty way to live, just constantly going from one. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to use the word fraud either, but it's the closest thing to it, and it might even be it.
There you go. So that's what I know about. Legal never happened.
I can't imagine the things you went through, and I never ever thought being an owner would be. I knew the responsibility, but I never took those stressors into the equation. Especially not. What if we have no teams to play? That wouldn't even have come across my radar if I was you.
You're right.
Do you see any of the, but like, are any of these guys in Orlando anymore? I like Brad Fedorenko, BJ Stevens, Mark White. I just looked at some of the list. Joe Shoresy, Louis Goulet was a great player. Remember that we got him early. He went on to the coast, and I think he had like 90 points in the coast. He was
in the AHL too.
Yeah, in the A. He went on the AHL.
Brad Fedorenko, I believe, is in Jacksonville. Facebook friends with him. Nice guy. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. BJ Stevens, he's
go back up to Anchorage.
Yeah, I don't know where. Yeah, he is from Anchorage. You're right. Or played in Anchorage. He lives locally, maybe Daytona area. He's a cop. Married, happy, nice guy, great guy. Who else? I don't know about Mark White. Great hockey player. I'm sure he went on great things in his career. I don't know where he is.
La Puma?
Zach is local. Zach and Cindy, great friends. We saw them together for dinner when you were in Orlando.
Yeah.
Skinny, Ryan Anderson, he's in San Antonio, doing well with his own construction business. It's funny, Chris LaPuma, who's local and he works in the hospitality industry. I remember him years ago saying on the bus ride to Macon or at Knoxville where he won the championship, he said, "David, I've been involved with a lot of teams." He goes, "You're never going to remember the names of any of the players down the road, except for the guys you win a championship with, and you'll remember every one of their names forever."
He's right.
Is he right?
I remember that, David. I can't believe that you remember that quote. If there's one quote I remember from La Puma, it was that quote. He told me that. It was the same bus ride. It was after we won, coming back from Knoxville. And I know I'd had a long resume on my career, but I'd never won anything. That was my big motivator for going there, is that I think we might be able to win. Zach's like, "No, I'm serious. Like, trust me, we had a great team, and if you come down, I'm hurt. I can't play the rest of the year. You can fill in for me." I had a blast, but there was La Puma. I remember, like, I really looked up to him because he's a few years older, and he fought, he scored, he played in the NHL.
Scared me.
Yeah, and he just every once I looked at him. I don't know if you've seen like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, like Clint Eastwood. Like, he's a man of few words, but when he speaks, you listen, right? And that might be extreme. It's a fucking Western from the 60s, but I'm just saying La Puma was like that. Like, to me,
how much I like that guy. After his hockey career, he actually worked for me in real estate for several years.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. We had a USA land sale. He would help us out with our auctions, real estate auctions nationally. He'd go to all the auctions with his wife, Amy, and they'd help out. And that's because I trust him as a person, as well as a hockey player. So, and you saw as a teammate, what a great guy he was as a teammate. No question.
He excelled. He was the
Total
ultimate
leader.
teammate. I think he was most at home in the room. It was great. And listening to him, I'd go in there early just to hear stories that he had. And you know what else I loved about Orlando? We had
I'm still here. I love it too.
I don't know who hooked it up, but we had free everything. Like, I mean, Universal Studios, Disney World, and SeaWorld. So I loved it. I was there, me and Skinny, I don't know, man. Most days we went to one of it. And there was a cool little like tiki bar around where we lived. And it was just a nice little, and there was all kinds of, I didn't think about it, but Orlando has a lot of Canadians, like that are down there for one reason or another. Some of them retired, some of them are vacationing. But like a lot of our fan base knew a lot about hockey. I didn't see that coming, right? It was a big hockey environment.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Do you tend to compare your life to others? Does social media play a part in that? What do you do when you get caught up wishing your life looked like somebody else's? Comparison is the thief of joy, and it can be easy to envy other people's lives. It might look like they have it all together on their Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. BetterHelp isn't just for people who have experienced major trauma. It can be helpful for learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, or just empower you to be the best version of yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, why not give BetterHelp a try? BetterHelp is entirely online, so it's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Plus, it's easy to get started. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. And if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge, no hassle, nothing. So stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/THPN today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/THPN.
Anyway, thanks. I got maybe 10 minutes more of questions. I like to call them rapid fire randoms. Are you ready?
Yeah, sure.
Good? You good to go? Okay, here we go. David Waronker, rapid fire randoms. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
If I had a superpower, what would it be?
You could
Ruth.
pick anything.
It's Ruth, my wife.
Okay,
Yeah,
it
no
is
doubt.
Ruth, and I think I agree. That's a great answer, by the way. Most people say flying or invisibility, but you're literally saying your wife. Well, you guys are together this long. I got no reason to argue with that. Death row meal. You're on death row. For some reason, you've snapped. You're an owner. You come in, and one of these guys has swindled you for the last time, and you lop his head off. Unfortunately, you're in Texas. Now you're on death row. You've got to go meet your maker. What are you going to eat?
Wow. Well, you can't order Chick-fil-A. So I'd have to say a steak, potatoes, and corn on the cob.
That's a great answer, by the way. Steak, potatoes, and corn on the cob. Simple, classic, and would fill you up. Would you go into space if given the opportunity?
Not a chance. I don't even like the second floor.
I didn't know that. I'm bad with heights too. Horrible. Like literally ladder up to the second floor, and I
like the
don't
ground.
like it. For some reason, flying I don't like, but I can do it like much. Like if I go up in the CN Tower, my day's over. I'll puke. I'll like it. It's like I got to really like work. I'd rather fight Taidomi with my hands tied behind my back. That's the truth. Than just go up in it. Your favorite sports jersey ever? Doesn't have to be hockey.
Favorite sports jersey ever? Oh gosh, I have to say the Flyers. I love that logo.
It's great. Yeah, and they were it must have been at the time when there was less jerseys and teams were just coming in. That was the big expansion, the first one, right? The orange, the orange must have offset. You get the Leafs and or Montreal, Detroit, Chicago, the classic and then just this orange team with all this grit and blue collarness, and eventually within 7 years they're the Broad Street Bullies. What's something you haven't done on your bucket list?
Go to Kuwait. Go to the Middle East, Dubai, Kuwait. There's Middle Eastern countries.
Yeah.
When they're peaceful, of course.
I know what you mean. Yeah, go over.
And I'd also like to go to Australia.
Me too. I really hope I get there someday. It's so goddamn far, right?
I know.
Obviously, but anyway, I'd love to. Maybe we can go together sometime. Your favorite player ever, hockey player?
Well, it is Eric Lindros, I'd have to say.
Great answer. You could make an argument the most complete, but I don't want to set. I'm sure that would go over well on Twitter. Your favorite sports figure ever? Doesn't have to be hockey.
Favorite sports figure ever? Good question. I always loved hearing the stories about Lou Gehrig in baseball.
Yeah. Geez, that's a good answer. Lou Gehrig. And what a fucking courageous guy. That last speech when he gets up there and says he's the luckiest man in the world.
Lucky man in the world, right.
Combine that character with the level of player he was. I don't know, but that's a great answer. He'd probably be.
It's have to be thankful for what you have and don't have. You won't worry about what you don't have. And, and I don't sound morbid here, but, if everything ended today, I had a great life. Good, bad, and different. I had a wonderful life, great kids, grandchild now. I met a lot of wonderful people. So, and that's why I think I admired him so much. The peril that he was facing, yet he could only talk about the positive.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And what a leadership move, man. People watching when literally there wasn't as many options for social media or TV or, that was just all around the world. People saw that and he could have gravel tripped over his bottom lip, and he didn't. He said those words, man. Just wild. What number did you wear and like anything? Were you, if you played
12.
any sport, okay, number 12?
Hockey 12.
Okay, you got to pick one of these things never to have again. You can't wear hats, wear jeans, or eat steaks or eat pizza. One of those things. You got to give up hats, jeans, steaks, or pizza.
Oh, jeans. I like wearing shorts anyway. No problem.
And yeah, and you live in the kind of places that require shorts a lot of the time. You're going on a trip. You got to bring 3 albums. It's going to be 6 months long. So it's, you got to bring 3 that you won't get sick of. You probably like, doesn't necessarily have to be your favorites, but what would you bring right now? Where you are?
Something to do with Bon Jovi, something to do with Bruce Springsteen, and I hate to admit it, but I was a Madonna fan.
Looking back, Madonna, great collection. The Immaculate Collection is probably my favorite by her. It's got pretty much everything, although after that she did come up with some bangers in the 2000s. And first 2, of course, that's spoken like a good New Jersey boy.
Of course.
Bon Jovi, Springsteen. Give me 3 movies that you really like.
Wolf of Wall Street, I think, is hysterical.
Great.
How could I not say Slapshot? Right?
Yeah, man.
Of course. And movies, I like the movie Wall Street, the original version, not the second version.
Was the second? Okay, so the original was in the Michael Douglas, right?
Yeah, correct. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know there was another version. I love that one.
There was. It was depressing and not well done.
That version, by the way, I don't know if it got him an Oscar, but what a fucking performance by Michael Douglas in that. Yeah, unbelievable. And I only appreciated it. I saw it when it came out, right? Because my dad watched it, and there wasn't much. I was only 10, though. Like 5, 6, 7 years later, I watched it again, and I understood a little bit more what it was about. Great fucking movie. What's the most you've weighed and the least you've weighed?
220 and probably 0 at birth, but I think you mean in the recent past.
Yeah, as you're an adult.
Down to about 175. Right now I'm at 192.
Okay, I'm about that too. Okay, last question, my friend. You're from Jersey, and you've mentioned along the way some of the things that you like about Jersey. I want you to give me 3 of your favorite things about Boston.
Oh, the culture, the restaurants, and the sports teams.
Yeah, man. You know what my favorite spot to have a beer is in Fenway. And, and not, I don't mean to get shit-faced. I mean just to sit out there. Most situations, if my dad and I are going to Green Day next week, I'll be, I'll make sure I have a few, but I like to be sober for that. Sip on a beer, like literally sip on one rather than get drunk. I'm the same way at Fenway. I like just getting a pint, and I love sitting out in the outfield too and just taking it in with the Bostonians, right? Having a conversation, maybe a hot dog, but not drinking to get drunk, just having a pint in the outfield. It's my favorite place in the world, and if it's a sunny day, then bonus.
Enjoy it. Awesome. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How's Penny Lane?
Penny Lane is awesome.
Hey, Penny Lane. David says hi.
She's adorable.
Say hi.
We're so proud of you that you raised her, and she adores you and looks at you with such pride. And it was so great to be able to spend some dinners with the 2 of you. She's adorable.
It was awesome. Like, because again, when she wasn't even thought of when we came down. David just wanted to say hi. He was asking. She's got a soccer game today, so we're going through the routine. We're going to go out now, do our little warm-up, have a bite to eat, pregame, have a nap, and then go up. And who are you playing tonight?
CBS.
And how's your year going so far?
Pretty good. Our team is all the teams are really close. Like, it always changes. Like, we were just second, now we're like third. But for leaders, I'm third in scoring.
She's doing all right. First year, she's got another year left, third in scoring, and then there's her Mount Pearl team, then there's the Summer Games team, and then there's the provincial team. So she's got a lot of soccer this summer. And what's coming up, Penny Lane?
Yeah, but I thought you just said that.
When is that?
August 10th.
August 10th in Bay Roberts, Newfoundland. So I told David, now David's got a spot in Lexington, Kentucky, as well as Orlando, and he's from New Jersey. So we're going to go see Pitbull, and we're going to see Paul McCartney. That's the next two concerts we're going to see, and we better see McCartney soon. But anyway, we're going to look at going to maybe New Jersey to see it, David. Lexington or Orlando. So we'll see you sooner than later.
Great, buddy.
Okay, that's good. Thanks, Penny Lane.
See you, Penny.
We'll do our. David was asking about you. We'll do our warm up in about 20 minutes. Okay. Okay. Yeah, man. Thanks. And we had a great time. So that was Penny Lane's first time in the United States, right? Which is I didn't really think about it. We'd been to all over Canada, but that experience down there was really a memorable one for her, and not just because of the Disney World and all that. That was almost stimulation overload.
You were from 6 a.m. to midnight doing something. So, wow.
Every day. I'm so glad. And I bought, going down, I wasn't sure because, again, when we were there, I had free everything. So we just waltzed in. It didn't matter to me about waiting for a ride because we'd just get to know the guy and just go, yeah, just give us a buzz, will you, when it's open. And we'd go have a beer or whatever and wait. It just didn't seem like a lot of waiting. Anyway, I bought the extra for it's only like $80 extra. And for that price, you're there that long. You're going to get on, for anybody listening, like way more rides. You just slice right through. It's so much more enjoyable. For the extra $80, you're going all the way there. Most people are heading down. If you're making the decision to go to Disney World, spend the extra $80. Trust me.
No kidding.
Well, that's it. Do you have anything else to say? Anything else to promote?
Nothing to promote. I'm all good, except please, if you can, visit Brave Hearts Equine Center. The awareness of horses in peril to me and my wife and our staff is second to none. Just to see what happens, and get involved if you can. Make it aware that this is happening, this peril, that horses that are, old and beautiful horses are just sent to slaughter. It can't happen. It's got to stop. It has to stop. But say hi to your dad for me. I love your dad. I love you, buddy. I appreciate the time this morning, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks a lot, David. You're a good friend and really a big part of my life, whether you've known it all this time or not. I really appreciate it. Thanks for taking me in 2003 on the Orlando Seals. Thanks for the great time you showed me and my daughter in February, and thanks for doing this. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Take care. Good talk.
See you, buddy. Okay, folks, that was my good friend and old owner, David Waronker, and just a great guy. I hope you enjoyed that story. I think it's absolutely curiously mesmerizing. I when I heard him telling me that way back in the day after we had won it, he didn't really get into it, but I remember being very impressed by his focus and determination in keeping the league going. And he got us some great rings. I should have had mine. Usually I'm wearing it, but my dad loves it, so one of us has it, and then the other one wears one of the ball hockey ones. First world problem, which ring to wear. Anyway, just I can't stress enough how good this guy was to me. And, these years later, often, if you're a player, a lot of players, there's a good percentage of this listening, of my audience that are listening, that played pro or junior or whatever. You know how you put, coach is one thing, but definitely managers and owners. Owners are so distant. It's like a pedestal they seem untouchable isn't the word, but all powerful. They're never usually the people that you end up being friends with at the end, right? You might respect them, you might come across them, but they're not like your buddies for life. Well, David obviously is the exception. An owner that I hang out with and don't consider anything but a friend. And a co-champ, right? Because we won together. Anyway, it was awesome to have him on here. I'm looking forward to seeing him again soon. Folks, if you're downtown St. John's, well, first of all, if you're downtown St. John's next week, if you're even thinking about coming to St. John's, the next few weeks is when to do it. The last week in July, first week of August is George Street Festival, and it is an absolute wheel of a time. All kinds of great bands, including the Wallflowers this year. Third Eye Blind are back. You're going to get Alan Doyle and Shanny Gannock and a lot of the Newfoundland bands. Loud Luxury are coming. Shania Twain is here right after that, so it's not quite part of the George Street Fest, but it's going to happen. At the tail end of it, you got Pitbull. It's going to be a rager. So I'm going to, the places that I go, obviously, where do I go on George Street? Say it every time. I go to Trinity Pub. I go to TJ's Pub. I go to Rob Roy Confusion. I go to the Martini Bar. I go to Greensleeves Pub, and I go to the Bull and Barrel. And I'm not shitting you. That's where I go. Those are my buddies. And I'm not saying it because they pay me, because I just drink a lot there, and these bars have been good to me over the years. So it's indirect advertising, I guess. But I'm just saying that the George Street Fest is about to come. So whether you go to those places or anywhere else, there's fucking awesome vibes downtown St. John's as we speak, right through till, we're going to have nice weather and everything, but right through till the weather will last, obviously. But this party, pretty much right up until Labor Day. But the next few weeks is when to come. And if you don't go to any of those bars I mentioned, so be it. That's where I hang out. But there's wicked local establishments. Go head down there, man. Go to Bridie Malloy's or Kelly's, O'Reilly's, Adelaide, right? Merchant Tavern, Celtic Earth. There's Trapper John's. All kinds, karaoke cops. There's all kinds of us. The Rock House, what a venue to see a concert. I'm serious. As a local, if you're thinking about coming to St. John's, or you're even in a town outside, you don't come in much, you haven't been in for George Street Festival, trust me on this. And this year we're getting all kinds of great weather. I don't remember the last drop of rain I saw. I can't believe I'm saying that from St. John's, Newfoundland. So anyway, I always mention the bars I mentioned, but get out, get downtown, support downtown St. John's. A lot of those places need your support. They were hanging on by a thread, and we're starting to get our tourism back. By that, just people, in and around, just even if you're in Newfoundland, tourism doesn't just mean the mainland. If you're in Grand Falls, you're in Bay Roberts, you're in Corner Brook, wherever, and you're thinking about it, I'm telling you, this year is going to be the best George Fest. And I'm not going to fucking be here. I'm going to be in Sudbury. We're going to go up and got some stuff to do there. Hopefully we end up doing season 4. But anyway, I strongly mean that if you're going to go for a bite to eat, where do I go? I always say it on here. I go to Blue on Water. I go to Loose Tie, Wedgwood Cafe. But the thing is, I'm telling you, same thing. All those local restaurants downtown, they need your business. It's going to be on wheels, and just check it out. If you are on a lot of drinking, a lot of eating, you're going to want to get yourself back in shape. You're going to want to think positively for the body and mind. You'll go to Power Conditioning on Rope Walk Lane with Ryan Power, strength and balance for the body and mind. If you need to go to Mr. Lube, there's 2 locations in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. One's on Camel Road, one's on Torbay Road. Live, laugh, lube. Pitbull Pain Relief paint sticks, just don't quit. Go to pitbullpainrelief.com, see what all the fuss is about. True Hockey, take what's yours. Folks, Muggsy jeans are so fucking comfortable. The stretch, the comfort, the fit, I absolutely love them. Manscaped, I absolutely love the clippers. I love the setup. I love the trimmers. I love the deodorant. I love the whole shot. Check it out, Manscaped, and thanks again for a great product. Appreciate you guys. And, of course, True Hockey, take what's yours. I'll be back in just a couple of days with more Tales with TR.